be honest. So obviously, if any of you are competing and or getting ready for shows and contests, obviously you have access to one of the judges, and you have this space to come and practice your posing, get some critique. That's not something that's often available in bodybuilding, so definitely take advantage of that. It could save you a few shows getting where you want to get to, because presentation and posing is often the bit that blocks someone from getting the win. They have the physique, but then they don't present it very well. So to have yourself here and this space is definitely something. I'd probably be here every weekend if I was getting ready for a contest to see if I could get some posing tips.
Yeah.
So if that's something you're available to do, definitely take advantage of that.
Yeah. Anytime for anyone. So we are here to, you know, for you guys, and
this is
to
proper
create a
bodybuilding.
little bit something different. So
Yeah.
So do we need that, or we can do without that?
You like
better with
a
this.
mic? You want a mic? Yeah.
Oh, okay. So we're gonna do just like a Q&A right now, and you guys just ask the question. Try to don't make them stupid. So
No questions are stupid.
yeah, but bodybuilding, lifestyle, couple thing, whatever you wish to know about prepping, training, food.
I'm open.
Anything. James and Yannicka, they are really open people, so they're gonna probably give you a good answers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone?
I won't. So I won't bullshit you. You can ask anything. So whatever you need to ask, it's not like there's any limitations here, because a lot of questions are in your mind. Sometimes you just want some clarification from people, because a lot of people say I do this, I don't do this. So I'm an open book. So feel free to ask anything. It can be as basic as nutrition, it can be as basic as training. Like you said, it can be about relationships, but all the supplements and stuff like that, I'm open to talk about my experiences and whatnot and help you if I can. Again, anything I say is just based on experience, so it's not like the guidebook to how to approach anything. But I'd always try my best to help steer people in the right direction with these kind of discussions. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah.
Anyone with any question? No questions? Johannes, come on, man.
Be brave.
Come on.
Let's get it rolling. There's got to be some sort of conversation.
Nobody?
Had.
AJ,
Yes.
you need to have you need to have a question.
What advice would you give to athletes who are just starting, coming up, to try to get some sponsors or try to get out there? Because you are one of the most famous bodybuilders in the world and you can make a living on it. How would you recommend, like for young people who just started, coming up, some advice how to get things rolling, or how to be seen, or what is you trying to do to get out there in the beginning, but they don't have a huge platform like you with millions of followers?
Well, I wish I had millions. That'd be great. I'd be really rich.
700,000.
Millions would be great. Honestly, so I say this to a lot of people. The first and foremost thing you have to do is focus on actually getting decent at it. So you've got to make sure that you are actually about this. Like you really do want to be a good bodybuilder, because that's the foundation to everything. The exposure and everything like that. Obviously, it's really important now, especially with today's trends. Everything's online. But if you're sacrificing the quality of your training or your attention to the details because you feel overly pressured to do the social stuff, that shouldn't be the case early on. Of course, later on, once you've maybe done a few shows and got yourself maybe a few, wins, people do recognize that. That's the best time to optimize then your persona and your character, because then people start to look into who you are. I would say start your social media content from day one, so that later down the line when you are established, they can look back and they can see where you came from, and then they can relate to you a lot better. Because I think one of the biggest things that helps people get an audience is how relatable you are. If you're someone that's kind of like faceless, like almost like a Dorian Yates, it would be very hard for that to work today. Although it worked really well back in the day because everything was very different. Now people do want to know, how did you get there? And that comes from basically having a record of your history. And your history starts now. So definitely document your training. Like if you look at someone like Sam Sulek, he's actually good in what he does. He just makes sure he films his stuff daily. You can do the same, and it doesn't matter if it gets 2 followers, 3 followers, 4, because eventually, if you're dedicated to bodybuilding and you keep training, when people start to recognize your accomplishments on the stage, they're going to then recognize you as a person, and they're going to start looking into your content. The more content you got to back you up, the easier it is for companies who wish to have you as part of their platform to see you as someone that's beneficial to them. The reason I've managed to get contracts isn't because I'm the best in the world, because I'm not the best in the world, but because I've always been very open and very kind of personable, and made sure that I try to show people as much as I can within reason. And that's what creates relationships. But another thing as well is like making sure, if you are presented an opportunity like this today, where you can come and actually meet people in person, always do it. Because one, it's good for you anyway, because we spend so much time, in the gym and isolated. But number two, it does build an audience, and it does help you familiarize yourself with people, and people like yourselves appreciate it, but it also makes you feel good too. And you guys will go away and you'll say, yeah, we did this event for so-and-so. You become that audience. So it's just about putting time aside and making sure you put an effort in. Obviously, you want to put the most effort into your training, yes, because obviously that's the most important part, but you definitely can't neglect things like this and whatnot. And that's just because today is that way. It's not because, there's a lot of other people my age who go, oh, social media is so shit and all this. It's not shit, you just got to make sure you're part of it. You either get with the times or you fall off. So my advice is just stay with the times, and put content out there, really.
Yeah. So we have here future probably bodybuilders who want to attend on the stage. Do you have any question, guys?
So I know you recently got a new coach, obviously in your prep and all that. My question is more towards like the off season. Do you prefer having a coach or doing your own thing in the off season, like the training plan and all that?
Oh man, I think because I'm old and senile now, I find it hard to trust people. Because I've been doing it for so long, you just have these weird instincts. You make a decision, you try something, and it feels like it's off. Like this doesn't feel quite right because based on your previous experiences. Because I've pretty much tried everything, so I can kind of guarantee that whatever I choose to do, I have a sensation or a response to it. So it does become really difficult. Off season, I prefer to be in charge myself. But I won't lie, I think in order to progress to the next level, sometimes you have to kind of just swallow your pride and listen. Because I like the off season to be quite relaxed. I think it's really important for bodybuilders or athletes in general to have some time where they don't feel too pressured. And it doesn't mean like you get lax and lazy. Like it just means that you give yourself a little bit of leeway with something. For example, would be like, okay, meal number 5 of the day is going to be salmon and rice. In an off season, I believe like if you wish to have something slightly different, like you should be able to just do that. Like, okay, I'm gonna have potatoes and turkey. Like, you shouldn't be too pinned down, because it can create a little bit of like an unhealthy relationship with bodybuilding where you feel like you're a prisoner. And some people thrive off that. Some people, like Branch, for example, would probably that's how he lived his whole life. I don't think everyone does, and I think if you're someone that would affect and make feel quite negative more than you feel positive, then that can't benefit your bodybuilding in the long run. So you have to find like what works for you. A lot of coaches that are good actually are like that though, I have to say. Like, I know that Stefan, for example, he's quite vague on his plans. Like, let's say a meal would be, just pick something 250 grams of lean protein. So if you're like me, that kind of coach is better. So then it's going to come down to the coach and you. Do they fit you? Do you fit them? Because it's definitely a two-way thing. But I do like to be in charge myself, because I like to experiment. Because there's always that as well. Like, you want to test your own base knowledge, and especially when you've been competing I've been competing nearly 15 years now. So a lot of the time I do feel like, oh man, I just want to be in control and let my own experiences, my own knowledge steer me, because you want to basically prove that you know something. But then at the same time, what I will say is, pre-contest, like you said, this is off-season, obviously. Pre-contest, no matter who you are, no matter how intelligent you are, no matter how experienced you are, when you get to 3 weeks out, you're a fucking mess. So it's like, you just gotta, I would definitely say off-season is possible, but I would have someone there, perhaps as a coach who you have a good relationship with, to know what you're doing, so that when you transition into that pre-contest phase, that they know what you've been doing in the off-season, and then they can help you with those last few weeks, perhaps before a show, on like a mutual basis. That's the ideal scenario for me. I would rather that than anything. I'd rather do my entire prep, choose what I'm doing, have someone that I really respect, know exactly what I've been doing, and then when things start to get a bit crazy, at least they've got all that understanding of how did I get to that point, and then it's easy to finish the job. Hopefully that makes sense. So I don't think there's any right or wrong way. I honestly think you just got to do what's for you. I know so many good bodybuilders that coach themselves, and then I know many that need a coach. Justin Compton, for example, one of my favourite bodybuilders of the previous generation, he was always, after his first few shows, he was self-coached, and he got third at the Arnold twice. Could he have done better with a coach? Who knows? We don't have hindsight. So, but he was happy doing what he done. And I know Evan Centopani's been the same. He worked with like Oscar Arden, but then he decided to do his own thing. Came in 2011 and won the Flex Pro and looked arguably the best he ever has. So it can work if you're happy with your decisions. Ultimately, it's being happy in your decisions. Like, do you think what you're doing is right? So yeah.
I'm sort of the same that you are. Like, I don't want to have problems trusting people's like giving away that entire off season where you're supposed to make all these improvements, and it's just like, okay, you make the plan, I'll just do it.
For sure, there's huge pressure, isn't there? Because like a lot can happen in a year, or sod all can happen in a year, and we've seen it. We've seen bodybuilders go away for a year, come back, and we feel like not a lot's changed. Like we just see the New York Pro this weekend, and people were like kind of arguing with Quint. Quint's got one of the best coaches in the world, which is Matt Jansen, but a lot of people feel Quint hasn't improved since his show 2 years ago. Is that any fault of the coach or him? No, it's just what happened on the day. I still can't say if he's better or worse because it's hard to say. Would Quint been better at doing his own thing? Who knows? So you just got to go with your gut feeling. I think, how old are you now?
29.
So you've got time to try. If you do a season and you feel like it was unsuccessful under your own guidance, then it's not like it's too late then to go, oh, you know what, let's get a coach. So that's what I'd suggest.
Thank you.
No worries.
Anyone else? Someone wanna go? Oh yeah. Here we go.
I've listened to podcasts with Pro and the guys, and they always talk about balance in bodybuilding and becoming a good pro or becoming a pro, and like having balance in your life. How do you think about having balance when you try to become the best person you can be?
I agree with the boys like on this. In the beginning, or to get somewhere, like there's this ferocious intent where nothing else matters apart from the objective. And we've all been there, and that is what got us to even be professional in the first place. Because I remember being like on the come up, and I put aside everything else other than what I wanted to achieve. I'm a massive fan of like gaming, and stuff like that, and skating and stuff. And all from like 2008 when I first started competing to 2017 when I managed to turn pro, I basically put all that aside. And was it necessary? It must have been necessary because this is what happened. I do think everyone has to put a certain amount of that time in. I do think the longer you bodybuild for and the more you learn your body and the more you understand how much is necessary, you can transition a little bit into having a little bit more balance, but you'll never have entire balance. Like Yannick can attest for this, like our life is not balanced, it's very much me. And I'm very grateful and very happy to have that. Like everything's on my clock. Like when we go in here, we're doing this, doing that. It's all based around my bodybuilding, and that just shows the amount of, unbalance that's necessary. And that's not even me being fully on bodybuilding. So I don't think balance is something you can truly have. There are some exceptions to the rule, really, with some really cool individuals. Like if you look at someone like a John Jewett, I think John's got like a really good hold on organisation, and I think organisation leads to balance. If you're not an organised person, then balance is impossible, and I'm not overly organised, so I think that's why I suffer on that front. But if you look at someone like Kuba, if you know Kuba from the UK, Kuba's kind of like very organised, and some would say that's not balanced because everything's bodybuilding, but then it will allow for him to have that free time because he's so scheduled, so he knows when he has free time to do things with people and friends. But it's weird, isn't it? Because I'm thinking of Kuba and how obsessive he is, and that obsession alone never leaves your mind. So is it really balanced at all? So yeah, I don't think to be good at anything, you're going to be able to be truly balanced unless you're an exceptional genetic phenomenon. Like I think the only people that would ever get away with it is someone like a Phil Heath, who probably could switch his mind off probably for half the day and probably not even think about bodybuilding. He'd probably say otherwise, so I don't want to quote him. But yeah, I think if you really want to get somewhere in this, you have to wake up every day and do some crazy amount of attention towards this. I used to go for walks at like 4 a.m. because I started work at 6 a.m. And this is before I was even like actually competing. That was when I decided to compete. Like I just realised that you have to crunch everything into the day to get it done. You know, packing your food, taking your food to work. You know, this is all when I was a teenager and I didn't even know what competitive bodybuilding was. So it took that amount of focus and effort even just to get to the mindset that I could even compete. So it will take everything. And if you're not winning, it's probably because you're not giving it everything, and that's the truth. It's a tough one because I hate to advise at the expense of like burning bridges and relationships, but with bodybuilding, it's so necessary to give it everything that sometimes that happens. So all I can say is from experience, try to be mindful of that and try to have a relationship with someone who does understand that this isn't forever, and that your ambitions are super high, and if they're willing to be beside you, then you're very, very fortunate. Hopefully that makes sense, yeah.
Because everyone's balance is different.
Oh yeah, it's just like...
Unica point of the
I was
view.
just going to say,
Yeah.
everyone's balance is different. And it doesn't matter if you're a bodybuilder or do any other professional sport, or if you are a career person that works 12 hours a day in a job, you still have to then find balance within your relationship with the people around you. But yeah, it's bodybuilding especially, you have to be 100% committed if you want to have it as a career. So you then have to find balance within the world of bodybuilding and your relationships.
Ahmed, I can see you have a question.
No, but he said like give everything for this sport, but there is some people like mixing between giving everything for this sport and sacrifice the health and the CrossFit.
Well, this is why I say it's hard to advise.
Yeah. So they mixing just like a lot of people they doing that, you know. And in high level, when you're doing that, you lost everything, you know. So what's the difference between these sports? Like, sorry.
It's very tough because I've got friends that are like now like 60 years old that have competed in the British Nationals and won their class 6 times. Never won the overall, never turned pro. And I look at them now and they're very good friends of mine. I'm like, they never got from it what I did. And that's why it's always really difficult because not everyone's promised that. So that just tells me that the most important thing about bodybuilding is you can't get into this for anything other, first and foremost, about your passion and desire to be a bodybuilder. Because a passionate bodybuilder should love to bodybuild whether they're rich or poor. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It should be about that. I know, again, we live in a totally different time. Like social media makes bodybuilding quite glamorous because there is a lot of attention that comes from it. And that is cool and that is a byproduct of it. And I think you should definitely embrace that when it comes, but it can't be the driving force. The driving force has to be that you woke up and you were like, I want to be a bodybuilder. Because then, like I say, whether you ever get a contract or not, whether you make money or not, if you're happy in the gym lifting weights and looking at your progress in the mirror, then you're happier than anyone else. Because a lot of people do it just to try to get monetary reward. And I've always been told from anyone I know that's successful that has a lot of financial, who's in a good financial position, is that they were never focused on the money, they were focused on the product. And your bodybuilding, your physique is your product, and that should be the thing that you care about most. So getting up there and walking away, in your eyes, as an exceptional bodybuilder. And then everything else that comes, it does. But like you say, with health, there are some people, unfortunately, I said this the other day, it's like the whatever it takes attitude is definitely the best attitude, but the whatever it takes shouldn't be mixed with take whatever it takes. Because that's where people go wrong. They're like, when it comes down to like the anabolics and stuff like that, people think that more is better or never come off or all that, and they think that that's the route to being very good at bodybuilding. But that stuff's just like icing on the cake for someone that's already disciplined, if necessary, if they're even doing a non-assisted show, an assisted show. There's obviously a lot of natural shows out there now as well. So the misunderstanding of a lot of the youth and even some of the older guys, because I've seen older guys that are in a bad way, is they just think that the difference between them and the person that's won is how much did I take, and that's definitely not the case. Because we have to be truthful as well. Genetics play a huge part in this bodybuilding, and genetics come down to everything. How good does your muscle look? Is the separation? How good are your lines? But also, how affected by taking anabolics are you? because there's some people out there that can do stuff and have no side effects, no disruption to their blood types, their blood work, no health concerns at all. And then unfortunately other people that, like myself, I'm pretty sensitive, so if I take something, it shows. And I have to be very mindful and I have to be very careful. So like anything in life, it's very, very individual. And the only way for you to really do well of it is that you have to have a grip on it and have to keep your eyes on it. And that's why I say it's so important to have someone around you or people around you that help keep an eye on it, because you will never be able to do that all yourself because there's so much involved. So yeah, I know I kind of went off on one there, but I think that was important to say.
Yeah. Anyone else? Johannes, I think this guy want to go on the stage, so he need to have some questions.
Yeah, sure.
Come on.
Yeah. How would like the first show that someone does? What would be the best advice to have your mindset on?
Well, the first show should always be the fun. Honestly, there's nothing to lose, nothing to lose, everything to gain. My first show was in 2008, so it's quite a long time ago, so I've got to go back a little bit in my old man clock and think about how did I feel. But the first show, you should just be really happy to be there and enter the world of bodybuilding. Like, just feel really grateful that, wow, I made it through a preparation and I'm standing on stage. Because that's a big achievement in itself. Because you got to think, all these first timers in bodybuilding, they've probably never done a diet before. So the fact you made it the whole way through a diet and you were disciplined enough to do that, that's a pat on the back itself. The pressure shouldn't be too high on the win. Obviously, my approach is just my own approach. My first approach was, let's just see if I'm cut for this, if I'm built to do this. So my first show went pretty well. I didn't win, I got second in a junior lineup of like 7, and I qualified for the British finals. But because I got second, I was really hungry. I was like, okay, second's really good and I could apply myself even better. So I took a year off. So I was like, I know I can win if I can get second. So I took a year off personally, and I was really driven from that first show. The first show basically lit the fire, got me really interested and got me knowing that this is actually what I want to do. So a lot of people's first show is either going to be their first of many or their last. And either way is fine. You know, you don't have to compete to be someone that loves bodybuilding. You might hate the stage. I'm not a very big fan of the stage as we've got older. The stage part's like the bit I like the least. Like, I love just training and eating and doing the lifestyle. So you may come away from your first show like, you know what, I'm not really about the competing, but I'm still going to go to the gym tomorrow and lift some weights. Or you're going to go there and you're going to be like, I love this is fucking ace. I want to get back up there next year even better. So either way is fine and it's the right answer. There's nothing wrong. You have to enjoy it though. Don't rush. Most people, when they get on stage, and I still do it now, nerves can take over and you just go too fast. Take the time, man, because that 10, 15 minutes you get goes really, really quick. So just be in the moment, breathe, take your time, and have as much fun as you can, because there is no pressure. Honestly, there's zero pressure. It's only the pressure that we create in our own minds. So that's what I'd say about your first show. Yeah.
Anyone else with something? Yes, Heidi.
I just wondered how you ended up with Stefan.
So Stefan's a funny one, because I was at the Arnold, obviously, both Arnolds. Stefan's a bit of a bastard, really. Let me tell you why. He had a bet with Fuad I wasn't going to place in the top 5. So he said I wasn't going to place in the top 5. So they had a bet, and Stefan lost the bet because I made 5th. So Fuad made him grow his hair. So Stefan's growing his hair at the minute, and that's all because of this bet. So Stefan came up to me actually after the show and said, well done, man, you look really good, because he didn't expect me to look like I did. So we just kind of had a laugh and a catch up, because I've known Stefan since about 2019 on a good level, like as a friend. Obviously then he was in the UK as well. So he's backstage with like Urs and Wesley, and I'm backstage, and we're just having like a general chat. He comes over and he's just a really good person, comes over and lifts you up. Always points out the positives about you and whatnot. So I was like, oh, this is cool, this guy's really great. Anyway, after some chatting, and he was happy with how I looked, he was like, man, like, what's going on with your contract? So we didn't even speak about coaching, but he was talking about the contract for like my Yamamoto contract at the time. I said, it's coming to an end real soon. He's like, man, you should come to ESN. So that was actually our first engagement. It wasn't even about coaching. And it wasn't till I like got home and I kind of sat down and let everything settle after the shows that I was like, you know what, I really like Stefan. He's just a cool guy. I didn't even really speak to you about it. I just kind of thought about it myself. So I just gave him the text, and I was just like, hey man, like, would you like to do some work together at some point? I said, I know, like, it looks like I hop coach to coach because I can't find my place right now. And I just gave him my honest opinion on why. And he said, no, it's totally understandable, I'd love to. So off the back of that, he was like, all right, let's work. And we were like, let's just see what we can do with your body over the next few weeks, because we potentially could do another show. And we did whatever we did, and we both agreed that I need a little bit of time off. So that's how I got with Stefan. And I have to say, he's a great guy. I don't know anyone that doesn't like him, and it's funny because ever since I've been working with him, obviously went to the Swedish Grand Prix, and the amount of people that came up to me, and I was talking to them, they're like, oh, I'm coached by Stefan. And I hadn't said I was coached by Stefan at the time. So everyone I was speaking to, I was like, oh, well, I'm also getting coached by Stefan now. And then we all started talking a lot more. So that was when, at that show was when I kind of made it apparent that I'm working with Stefan, because he was like, we can keep it quiet or we can say, and I just don't like the drama sometimes with bodybuilding because everyone's like in your business. So that's why we didn't just go, oh yeah, I'm working with Stefan. But yeah, so without going too far into the future, we haven't really got any plans at the minute, we're just having a bit of a rest and then we'll decide what's what. But I spoke to him yesterday, sent him some pictures of the fjord, just like, because he likes all that kind of stuff. He's like a nice person as well, not just a coach, you know. So yeah, he's just said have a lovely time kind of thing. So yeah, he's a good guy. So we'll see what happens next. I don't know, potentially something later in the year. If not that, I definitely want to do the Arnold again, because I freaking love that show. So yeah, Stefan's cool. And he got me a contract with VSN as well.
Anyone else? David?
I could ask about, do you have any routine about mobility? You know, you have a couple of muscles on you and how you handle, do you have some mobility training or schedule?
I'm that guy that has it for like, I have a mobility routine for about 3 weeks and then I fuck it off. It's terrible, isn't it? Because I've had times in my training like where I'm super disciplined, especially during a prep. So during a prep, everything gets better, doesn't it? Like routine, order, the time you wake up, you just get really motivated. So when I'm getting ready for a show, I typically do a mobility routine first thing in the morning of some sort, whether it be like shoulder mobility majority, because that seems to be the problem area of a lot of bodybuilders. But even to the point where I was putting on YouTube videos and looking at some like yoga stretching, wasn't I? Doing it in the living room, and Yannick was watching me doing it. Because you can actually find like a lot of like 10-minute short videos on YouTube of just like a good morning routine of yoga. And it does, I won't lie, it feels great afterwards. So that would be my suggestion, is just get on YouTube, put one of those videos on and do it. The more like advanced mobility routine I was doing for my shoulders just involved like a lot of laying prone and using like a stick to do like shoulder presses behind my neck to allow for, you know, shoulder mobility and stuff like that. A lot more stretching. But I tend to, I won't lie, like I tend to stretch more after training. I'm kind of like a post-training guy when my muscles are already kind of warm. But I would advise mobility for sure, because posing comes down to mobility, and mobility can really hinder your shots. And it sucks when, like I said earlier, you've got all the muscle you need, but you can't present it. So I would definitely recommend getting up in the morning and just doing 10 minutes of mobility. And I think, honestly, I think the yoga way is probably the best way, because you can do it anywhere. So you can be at home, you can be out and about, it does not matter where you are. Once you know the routine in your head, you'll never forget it, because it's really quite simple. So mobility is essential, and do it coherently with you as you grow and as you're putting on muscle, so that you stay supple. Because if you don't do it for a while and then you get bigger, you've done an off season, all of a sudden, like, shit, I can't even hit a side tricep, and that's terrible. So yeah, stay on top of the mobility for sure. And stretch after training as well, I'd advise that. I kind of took that from like Dante Trudell with like the DC training, like he does the extreme stretching on the muscle group that you train. I think that works tremendously, because I think that's the safest way to stretch. When the muscle's already primed, been loaded, been put through full range of motion, and more elastic, definitely the prolonged stretches are great to do after training. So train back, stretch your back after training, train your quads after training, etc, etc. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Yeah.
When you're getting bigger and the abs, and we know at competition now they are very looking at the ab control. How do you work on ab control and tightening the abs?
I'm still bloody trying, that's my weak point. So I'll just tell you, Stefan's got me doing planks when I train now. So I think planks are a great idea. And genetically, abs are actually a really bad part of my physique. So it's something I have paid a lot of attention to, and I train them very frequently, literally daily. Some form of leg raise, some form of abdominal crunch. But I think that alone wasn't efficient. I think the planks, where it's more like core, more actual internal abdominal control, is probably the best bet for any of us. Because superficial like ab work, yeah, it can make abs look good, but control is the part that we're trying to discuss here. So you can only really improve that from deep abdominal training, but also the posing practice. And I know a lot of us slack on that. So, okay, we've got this space here, for example. If this was like local to me, I would suggest on prep that you're here 3 days a week, you know, doing drills for training with your posing, because that should be as important as going to the gym, let's be honest. And you're only really get at like vacuum work. You know, you see a lot of the guys doing the vacuum work now, like the Nick Walkers, especially guys who have naturally bigger waists. And if you look at Nick Walker, even though he has a larger waist than most, he has superb abdominal control. So he's doing the best he can, and he wins shows. So it's going to be posing practice and applying yourself to doing the bit that's a bit boring and a bit shit, because no one really enjoys doing that, let's be honest. So get it done again, like I said, with the mobility. Just have to put aside some time in the day, and it will be easier on prep because you find that you have a better routine. You'll find that you have your coffee in the morning, you feel a little bit energized, a little bit more in the mood to do those kind of things. So, you know, from 16 weeks out, 20 weeks out from a show, definitely worth really, really getting on it. If you can do it in the off season as well, definitely. But I do understand it's harder in the off season, less motivating. We're a lot bigger around the middle in the off season. It's kind of horrible to look at. You kind of look at it and you feel bad about yourself. Yeah, because you're just like full all the time. So it's kind of hard. So unless you are doing cardio in the off season, you have a few minutes spare in the morning to do the posing and vacuums and stuff. I would just say lock it in really firmly when you're pre-contest from 16 weeks out. Quarter turns especially, like I think that helps. I think a lot of us don't pose the quarter turns enough, myself included. Because if you can get that control in those quarter turns, it's going to help you with a lot of your shots. You know, any side chest, side tricep, even like twisted shots. Because a lot of people let their stomach hang out from the side. Like, you know, Samson's a good friend of mine, I'm not going to lie. Like, he lets his stomach stick out, and he's my boy. But on the side chest, sometimes he gets a bit lazy with it. And he's got a good midsection, so even Samson, quarter turns, hold that shit in. And I know I'm not the best at it, but I try to be very aware when I'm on stage, so... yeah, and another thing's going to come down to like food control, because a lot of us, when it comes to the off season, we have like a good relationship with food, but we do sometimes overeat. So overeating, I think, is accountable for some of our distension that happens. So we just have to be more mindful of spreading our meals out. How dense are those meals? Can we space them out a little bit more? Because I think a lot of us compile our food too often. You know, you eat 2 hours and then you're like, yeah, I'm going to eat 2 hours after. You can probably go 3 hours. As long as you get all your food in by the end of the day and you give yourself enough time in between meals, that'll help as well. So it's training, there's what you do with your actual nutrition. And then the last thing I'll say, I know this is nothing really to do that, but it's also being very mindful if you have any intolerances. Because some people, you know, gluten, you know, lactose, if you're eating something that's giving you issues, sweeteners or whatever it could be, you're going to probably give yourself a much harder time trying to present that midsection, because you're fighting against something that doesn't feel comfortable. So, yeah.
Anything else, guys?
Let's grab more.
Okay, then I have a question from someone who could not be here. Who has made the most influence in your life?
Yeah, because Yannicka does a lot. Yeah, because your partner does a lot of influence you don't really realise, because it's daily, isn't it? So you think, who would you be if they weren't around? But then, you know, you can always say your parent, because your parent determines your, you know, your early days, and your early days kind of determine, you know, your now. And then you've got obviously external, like who do you look at that maybe you don't know, that's just a motivation. But I think, yeah, I have to be honest, like Yannicka's sitting here now, she probably has the most impact on my life because I spend every day with her. So a lot of the time it comes down to decision making. I run everything past Yannicka because you take into consideration how does your choices affect them. And then like with my mother, when I was younger, it's kind of the same. She was kind of like pre Yannicka, like it's the person that you consider when you make decisions. I was very relentless though. I was very and I was very. I made choice. I'm selfish. Like I make choices, even even if it kind of isn't in agreement with who I care about. Sometimes it actually attracts me to the choice because it's almost like a bit resilient. My mum, like with bodybuilding in the beginning, was like, "What are you doing?" kind of thing, and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm going to do it, and then I'll prove to you that it's a great thing to do." So, Yannicka and my mother really are the most impactful. But then, in bodybuilding itself, I had a friend, Steve Avery, who's one of my earliest mentors. He's a British bodybuilder that's, getting on a bit now. You won't mind me saying that. And he was with me in my early days, taking me through the sessions and showing me how to actually train like a proper bodybuilder. He'd take me to a gym in Bethnal Green in London called Muscle Works, which was famous back in the day. A lot of the British pros used to train there. And we'd go there every Saturday and he'd destroy me on legs every Saturday. He made me understand that you don't get anything for free. It's going to take blood, sweat and tears to be good at something. And he was quite a ferocious bodybuilder. He was quite old school in the way that he spoke, kind of aggressive. But I really appreciate having that, as I grew up without a dad. So having him around was like a blessing, because I got to an age where I was like, man, I need some guidance from a male, because as much as my mum is fantastic, there's only so much you can learn from a mother. So having that kind of male, I suppose, stand-in for my dad for a few of my younger years with bodybuilding really helped me establish myself, I suppose, as a man, and taught me what do I want to be like, who do I want to be. And it's funny because it was just done in the gym. So it was like having a dad, but in the gym at the same time. So yeah, I have to shout out to Steve Avery, because even to this day, there's many times that I think back about our times together and how good they were, and it can keep me in love with bodybuilding, because sometimes you don't love it. Sometimes you've had enough. So you just have to look back at what point in your life was the point that you had the most fun and enjoyment out of it, rewind a little bit and maybe train the same, or just get that same mentality again. So yeah, so there's 3 people really. Yannicka, Steve and my mother. Yeah.
I have a question. Maybe it's controversial, but how is, for example, steroids compared to the before?
So when I first started, it was 2000, and I think 2005 is when I was first in the gym. People even then were definitely using less than now. I know the cycles people do now because I know the coaches now, the younger coaches, and from day dot, people are told to do some pretty heavy cycles. You could come to a coach now and say, this is my first show, and they will put you on way more than I was ever recommended back in the day. I can tell you what I used when I won the Junior British back in 2009. I think I was on 300 milligrams of trenbolone a week, 300 milligrams of testosterone propionate, and 300 milligrams of masteron. That was my cycle. So 900 milligram total. Chuck in a little bit of clenbuterol for fat loss. And that was pretty much it. Now I know people that are told to do more testosterone than that alone, let alone any other compound, let alone any other oral, let alone any GH, insulin. So it's definitely, it's more aggressive now and more acceptable apparently to do more. Especially with those kind of exotics like the GH and the insulin. They weren't even a mention, there wasn't a mention of those when I was younger, because we always looked at it you shouldn't even really be doing HGH until you've proved that you've got the body to be a pro. Because I was when I turn pro, then I have something I can do to take me further, because that's kind of the mentality. Whereas now everything's, we call it the kitchen sink, you throw everything in it. And I think that's why sometimes people get really good really fast, and then 3 years they're just mentally burnt out, because they've done everything. And then what else can you do? There's nothing else you can take, and your body feels pretty beat up. So there's definitely that. That has definitely happened. Insulin wasn't even mentioned to me, I think, till mid 2010s. So then now I know people in England, everyone's told to take Lantus, everyone's taking metformin, everyone, and I mean bikini girls. And I'm how the hell did it get to this point? And I'm not I'm not that grumpy old man. It's this is bad or this is good. I am actually surprised things are at the level there are, because I know for a fact you don't need that much to get that good. And I know people that are taking way more than professionals who look like they've done 4 days in the gym. So it's kind of, just doesn't really make sense. And I would say to any of you, if anyone ever coaches you and tells you to do more than a gram of gear immediately, it's a red flag, 100%. Because I know that someone that's never taken anything before, let's say the typical male, if they were given even just 250 testosterone a week, they're going to make massive gains because their body's never been exposed to that. So that's how it's very different now. The old school coaches like the Chris Acetos, the Patrick Tours, those guys are actually, they prescribe a lot less than these younger coaches. So that's why you'll notice I've always tied myself to the more old school coaches, because I know loads of young coaches and I could go and get help off someone tomorrow, but it would entail being a lot more, what's the word? It's reckless. It'd be more reckless. So try to avoid that at all costs if you can, guys. You know, personal advice from me to you. You can win titles and not take a lot, especially if you're disciplined, because again, like I said, it's the icing on the cake. Like the highest percentage of your progress and the reason for your progress is going to come from your nutrition and your training. And that's not me just saying that to sound like the good guy. It's just true. Like 2 grams of test is not going to give you anything more than 500 milligrams of test, except a load of fucking blood pressure issues and side effects. So why even go there, you know? So hopefully that helps.
Why do you think that is?
Just because I think that's just the nature of the world right now in everything. Everything has to be bigger, faster, more accessible. Like, just look at tech. Like, everything has to advance. And the only way to go is, like, faster, bigger, more. I don't know, it's just this, like, human mentality. Like, I look at bodybuilding, I love bodybuilding, I'm in it. But I do notice if I look outside, the world's doing the same shit. Like, whatever we're seeing happening in bodybuilding is just a trend of humankind, mankind. Everything is just excessive in all things. Everyone wants to have the, you know, the fastest internet. Everyone wants to have the phone that does the most, the best camera. And whatever the field of or the industry we're looking in, everything's going to the point where it's going, and it's gonna just go, and it's the same with bodybuilding. So I think it's just I think it's just humankind. I think we're all just we're pushing ourselves towards just pushing everything so far forward in all aspects that sometimes when the only ingredients involved are that, whatever it may be, more is more, do more to get more, because you're trying to eke out as much as you can. It's just a mentality thing. I don't think it's not a science thing. It's not like, oh, science says this is better for you. It's purely just like a kind of natural evolution of how we are. It's kind of hard because we need some people just to kind of say to us, slow down, chill, slow down, it's okay. Because I think the impatience of us as people is the biggest problem. And again, that's not even like, we can have that conversation outside of bodybuilding. It's just general, it's just fact. You know, you look at like, on your phone, like the apps you have, like, oh, I need to be able to get a car here now to pick me up, to take me there. It's all that. I know that sounds a bit odd, but yeah.
Anything else, guys?
When did you realize that you actually could live as a pro or live off bodybuilding?
I managed to start like living off bodybuilding properly when I signed to Redcon, and that was when I was training with Luke Sando. So Luke's obviously a really incredible bodybuilder. He was fantastic. He got me a deal with Aaron Singerman because they were close. And Luke used to always like lift me up. He was always like, Jay, you're really good. Like, never put yourself down. He spent a lot of energy actually building other people up. He was a like really fantastic person. Like, he always pointed out the positives about other people around him, and that's why I think everyone loved him. And because he used to do that, then I started to get confident. You know, I started thinking, okay, I can be good at this. You know, I hadn't won a pro show yet. It was 2020, 2019 when we were training together. He got me this contract with Redcon, and I'll be honest with you, I was getting $3,000, $3,200 a month. Mate, I hadn't even won a pro show yet. He just put in a good word and I managed to get a decent contract. So that was enough money for me to live at the time. And I was like, wow, I'm actually a bodybuilder, like proper. Obviously I did a lot of work. Redcon, I loved being with the brand, and I was so happy to like do everything they asked of me because I was super appreciative. Turn up to events, promote, you know. And luckily I had Luke to do the business with, which we had each other. It was really great. Like, he was my teammate. So That was when bodybuilding started working for me, and then 2020, obviously the world started to go a bit crazy because the whole COVID thing was going on. But I did 2 shows that year, and I managed to win both. And then that was like sealed the deal for me. And then Aaron actually gave me a pay rise after I'd won 2 shows, which was a good little pay rise. So I had that understanding then that my performance determines my income. And I was like, I'm on the ladder now. I'm moving up. I'm earning money. I'm a pro bodybuilder. I get to do this. And I've been grateful ever since. Been very fortunate ever since. So yeah, that was when, you know, and it's weird, isn't it? When can you realise? But it was a financial thing that made me realise I can. And it doesn't happen for everyone. I know pros that have done really well in shows that haven't necessarily secured good contracts, and I would say that's a testament to Luke and his character, because he was so liked. Take note of what he was like, because I think that's the best template to be someone that a company would see interest in. I was obviously around him, so he rubbed off on me and gave me almost a handicap there to get in. So yeah, you can be the best bodybuilder in the world, but if you've got no personality and you don't care about promotion or helping companies kind of get seen, you're not going to get anything from anyone. So this is why I said at the very beginning, there is you have to do both, especially in today's times where the majority of us are influenced by what is being presented to us via social media. So yeah, try and be a good person, try and have some fun character, be like Luke Sando. Watch his old videos if you can. Like, if you haven't seen his stuff, just like go to YouTube and watch some of his old videos, and you'll just see he's funny as hell. And but funny as hell and massive. So he's, you know, he had the muscle, so he's the bodybuilder, so he's legit, but he's also got the humour and the presentation and the character that a company would be very behind. So yeah, that's when I realised.
Anything else, guys? Any questions?
It can be as basic as you like. It can be super complicated, whatever you like.
Yeah.
Like now, a really tough one for the predictions for Olympia.
Predictions for Olympia. Obviously, I was next to Hardy, obviously at the Arnold, and he is fantastic. But I think now they've set a trend of what they want, and I think that Derek is the trend. So, you know, I think Derek's still going to be first, because it's hard to knock the champ out, especially. It's not political, but he is American and has this kind of like good appeal to be the man on the front cover of the magazine, even though magazines don't really exist anymore. But you know what I mean, like the face of bodybuilding, because it's really important that the face of bodybuilding is someone that is global, that is recognizable and that can talk and that can be relatable, and basically just everyone can understand and kind of see as the face. And I think Huddy, there's no better bodybuilder on the planet than Huddy. And if this was 1994, Huddy would be winning the Olympia every time. But I do think we're in a different time. And I think Derek is good enough, but I think he also presents that other side of the aspects that I'm talking about now, which again just relates to what I was just saying there. Markability, audience, those kind of things. So he's kind of like the mesh of both. And I think that does have a role to play. I think it does get you the nod. And although the judges say, no, we don't bias that, there's subconscious bias. Like, it doesn't matter like whether you're thinking that you're biased or not, there is subconscious bias. So I will have him in first. I'm interested to see how much Samson can improve if he's training in Kuwait. For us, it's hard, isn't it? Because we all think that Samson just needs to get razor sharp. So I don't know if that's possible. I don't know if that's in his genetic makeup. Because we look at someone like Brandon Curry, similar kind of structure, always struggled to kind of get really, really nasty pilled. So it could switch. Nick's in good condition, obviously huge. He could pip that third place. But then there's so many other good bodybuilders out there right now. Like, I think this is the most deep, from top to bottom, that bodybuilding's been for a long time. Like, you look at like Martin, and even people that like don't place first, Tonya Burton. You know, then you got like Rafa. It's going to be an interesting year. But I think one thing that we all agree on, and me and AJ spoke about this before, is like the Olympia is the mass monster show. Top 5 have to be big. And the only people that are presenting that kind of mass is Nick, Hardy, Samson, Derek. That's your guaranteed top 4 big guys. So outside of that, I really, really don't know. And I'll be interested to know what everyone else thinks. I might even put up a poll on my Instagram later and not a poll, like a suggestion box, and see that anyone that attended today, what was their predictions? Because I don't know. I'd like to know what your predictions are actually, AJ, while we're here.
Exactly the same.
Exactly the same.
Not top 5.
Yeah, yeah. Anyone that you see as like, who is the threat outside of that to then get into that top 6? Who's the guy?
Hunter Labrada or Andrew Jack.
Yeah, because of
Or Brandon Curry.
Again, because of muscularity, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, yeah, Hunter's a sort of one of those ones that could do. He's
300 and something right now.
he has a shitload of muscle.
And he also has the politics.
Also, being a Labrada, like it's kind of hard not to get in a call out. And I know that's kind of this. Like, you know, I'm a professional bodybuilder. I have to stand on stage with you guys, and it can obviously be something that you consider disheartening because you're like, well, I don't have that lineage, you know, that lineage to the name. But I will say this: in bodybuilding, if you come in and you're lights out the best, you will win. You just got to be lights out the best, and that's what I have to work on. We all have to work on is breaking the cycle of those things happening. Don't let there be an excuse. Be the fucking best. So that's what we'll be spending the next however many months trying to do, you know.
Were you motivated with Martin Fitzwater almost taking out Nick Walker?
I was, because obviously I competed with Martin 2022, managed to, you beat him? I did, yeah, I did, and it was close. Me and him it was nice, and I would have been happy, not happy, but I could have definitely placed him higher. I felt that me and him at the show that I did in 2022 were actually the best two at the show. That's just my opinion, but I'm a fan of his physique for sure, and he's so young and so fresh. Like there's sky's the limit, and it's nice to see them like a physique that isn't just huge. Like has some really nice proportions. Like because we none of us can argue that he actually has a fucking lovely shape. Like the waist, and the front bicep, and the shots like that, and then the thickness in the back for the rear shots goes right down to the hips. I think he's the future for sure. I think Martin in 2 years from now, if he hasn't won an Arnold Classic by then at least, I'll be very surprised, personally. Yeah.
Cool. Anything else, guys?
There's a lot of people. There's more people than I thought, so there's got to be something.
Never happened before.
Yeah, even if it's something small.
First thing on.
Honestly, even if you guys have a personal question that you're not sure about something of your own training or your own food, and you just want a little bit of a black and white answer, what would be beneficial? Because I laugh about the whole, what's your training split, bro? But to some people, that's a really important question, depending on how far they are into their training. If you're right at the beginning of your training, then that's a very valid question, and it is quite simple to answer. Things like that. So no question is too silly. While we're here, use it or lose it.
While traveling, do you always bring your food? Like now, do you have
Yeah, I always bring my food. That's one thing that you're always accountable for. You can always control the food.
Not only skolebrød?
Yeah, I do get one of them while I'm here as well. I actually got Princess Ebola yesterday. And I think I might actually prefer that. That was really good.
Yeah.
So I'll eat my meals, and obviously I'm in the off season. If I fancy a little, I like when I travel to have something native. It'd be weird to not have a dish or something from the country you're visiting. So don't get me wrong, the bodybuilder in me is that's quite low in fat. It's a good amount of carbohydrate. I do think about the macronutrients of the foods I eat, and does it fit, and is it okay to have? But I'll always try to do that. But I always have my meals, always. Yannick will attest to that, because can't afford to miss meals, guys. Missing meals is a crucial part of all things. Calorie demands, recovery. If you miss a meal, you probably won't recover fully. Then in your next training session, you're going to underperform, and that underperformance means you're not going to create the demand to actually progress. So it all has to be a systematic connection in a chain. And I'd rather eat more than eat less. If you guys are out and about and you're peckish and you've eaten all your day's food in the off season, freaking eat more. Honestly, that's what Branch would say.
Yeah,
Branch looked at my breakfast, he said that's a pussy's breakfast. Yeah, literally, he's like, man, you got to eat some steak and eggs. So yeah, just food is so important. Honestly, the times I've had the most muscle and I've been able to perform the best in the gym is when I've got a little bit uncomfortable with the food and pushed it. So I cannot express enough how important food is, especially traveling. So yeah.
Any tips for getting the food down or to eat
honestly,
more?
the best thing to do is just have a little bit of mobility, moving around between meals, like a nice little walk here and there. It goes a long way. I always feel better, and I'm always able to eat if I eat, and then I do something a little bit active. And I don't mean like sport, I mean just like a stroll. So I walk into town every day purposely after I've trained where I live. And that step amount of movement just sustains my appetite enough for me to get my current amount of food in. Obviously, if the food increases and I find it hard to do, then I'll just increase the amount I move a little bit, because the amount you move isn't going to overthrow the amount of calories, because you're going to put another meal in that's going to be 700, 800 calories, whatever it may be. You're probably going to move an extra 200 calories, but it will keep the appetite good. So that is black and white the best thing to do. Everyone's like, yeah, digestive enzymes, this, that. Bottom line is, if you're bottlenecking, if you're not digesting, you're not digesting. No tablet, no addition to that is going to suddenly make that stuff dissolve quicker. So movement is the key. But on top of that, that little bit of movement in the day will actually keep your headspace a bit better as well. So it all just kind of works hand in hand, because being like isolated and sitting indoors all day or being still is not a great feeling. So walk, eat. That's the best two things you can do. If you don't like walking, get a dog. You had something, yeah.
Yeah, so I've just come off a competition season, and next year, fall, I'm going to try to go for the pro card in NPC, in classic physique. So the feedback I've gotten from most judges now is that I need to bring up my chest and my back. Yeah. So what are your like tips or? So I think if you're already training those body parts and it is efficient, it is effective, you can feel it, it works. Then the only way you really can go from there is a slight increase in that frequency. Yeah, like I'm not a massive person that throws the word frequency at everybody, because a lot of the time they just need to fix their training. Because sometimes people just train something that it doesn't really quite connect. So it wouldn't matter if I said up frequency to many people, because if you're not connecting but you're up in frequency, you're still not connecting. So if that's why I say if training is good and you are feeling it, then that's when I would look at my training split and I'd devise a way to have a little bit more frequency on the upper body on those particular areas. I'm not one of these guys that's like, yeah, you have to do bro split, you have to do push pull. You have to do what you need to do. You got to get rid of the emotion. You got to think with the bodybuilding, this isn't about me doing the movements I enjoy. This is about me doing the movements I need to do to become a better bodybuilder. So, you know, if chest and back is something you got to do, then you might do like more of an upper lower kind of setup, so that you hit upper more frequently. Yeah. So you could like, you know, I don't know, or upper body, lower body, where you do quads one day, then upper body again, then hams, for example. But your upper body has a lot of focus on those two areas, and then you do a little bit less on the shoulders and arms because they're already a strong point. Something like that, you know, without being too particular. Like the key word here. Yeah, frequency with good execution. Yeah, obviously. If execution's spot on, then yeah, frequency for sure. And that, one of the best people I like talking to about training actually is Jordan Peters, because he loves to talk about training splits. So often my training gets determined by him because I'm in the gym doing something, and he loves thinking about training. He'll stop training his own training because he starts thinking about mine. And I'm like, you're thinking again, aren't you? And he's like, yeah, I am. I'm like, all right, just get it fucking done so you can train, and then let me know what you think. So my training right now is basically a setup that he's kind of done, and mine's kind of like similar. I'm just trying to work on more back and more shoulders. So again, the frequency on those is just slightly higher, and with exercise that I know I really, really feel. So. Thank you.
All right.
Magnus, any question?
Yeah, of course. When you have the day and you're supposed to go for a workout, how do you set your mind in going to the workout? Do you have any secrets? Like mind setting. It's not like taking a Red Bull or a Monster. Just like mind setting.
It can be. Well, with the mindset, do you know what? As I've got older, and the longer I've done this, sometimes it is harder to find that headspace. This is why, like, when you're like, say, you're in the infancy of your bodybuilding, that like kind of desire and aggression is peak. I'm only speaking from my experience, because I think there's a lot of other cofactors that are involved in my bodybuilding, like financial, not pressure, but like expectancy and stuff like that. So those factors always kind of circulating in my head, which sometimes takes me away from that mindset that I would like to have, which is just pure fire alone. The best way to kind of get that back is to home in on it, put on a video of someone like Branch and watch it for a minute and just allow for that to take over and put everything else to the back of your mind, because we're all busy. We've all got a lot of thoughts going on. So the only way really to access that is to try and get those other thoughts and put them to the side. And that's sometimes really hard to do, especially if you consider those thoughts actually important. So you kind of got to be distracted a little bit and just put something on. There's other people that say, I can just switch on. And I can. Listen, I can go to a gym and not feel like training at all. But the minute I go in the gym and a little bit of blood starts circulating in the body, I'm good to go. So there is that as well. I think even on the days where you don't really feel like it, the minute you're in there and you've done a few reps and the pump starts to come, the pump is the cure, and the pump is what makes you want to train even more. So just chase the pump, like it's like Arnold used to say, and he's like, the pump's better than sex, and all that off. But it kind of is like, I never feel bad after I'm warmed up. So I think the hardest part is just get yourself in the gym through the door. Even on the days where you don't feel like it, you just kind of have to understand it's a discipline. And without being that cheesy, oh yeah, discipline starts when motivation finishes, or whatever the fuck they say. Like, bottom line is, if you do want to do it, you just go to do it. Not every session's going to be your best session. Like, you have to understand that as well. Like, not every day you're going to go in the gym and be like, this was epic. Because it just isn't going to work out that way, because that's just almost impossible. One thing I would suggest, if you can, to try and avoid that happening frequently, is to have someone that you enjoy training with. If you have a training partner that you love to train with, that's going to be your hype man or your hype girl. That's going to be half the battle done, because they'll give you a text before training like, you ready? That's going to be the gun before the race, and you're like, yeah, I'm actually fucking ready, because he's going to go and do it and I'm going to go and do it as well. So it's down to your choice, the environment you put yourself in. Make sure you train at a gym that you feel motivated to train in. Make sure you train around people that make you feel motivated. And yeah, you're kind of in control of that. Like I say, you're not always going to be super in the mood, but your best option is to put yourself in circles and environments that encourage that mood, if that makes sense. Cool.
Anything else?
Yeah, one question. You've been working out, and then your first workout with branch. How did it feel? You know, get this old school punch.
Oh mate, the branch one workouts are the best, because obviously from the outside you get some critics that are like, oh man, you're going to break something, you're going to tear something. But I will say this first and foremost: when you're in Texas, it's so warm that your muscles are primed to train, and you can train like branch every day if you are in a temperature like that. But no, training with branch is great, because obviously, listen, at the end of the day, I feel like I can kind of somewhat relate to him on like a genetic standpoint, because I know he's obviously got, it's really simple, like I can only look up to a physique that I feel like I could achieve. It's no point me looking at like Ronnie Coleman, because I can't, I'm not genetically Ronnie Coleman. So when I'm around branch, I'm like, yeah, if I just learn and take from that and maybe copy some of that, then maybe I can get somewhere like he has. It's always a huge motivation. I've been very fortunate to train with him, you know, several times now, and to be fair, it just kind of flashes before your eyes, because you get so in the moment, because it's all just so aggressive and so go, go, go. You don't even have a moment to breathe. Like, the man's so intense, like he doesn't even drink water when he trains. Like honestly, he doesn't even drink. He doesn't drink and he doesn't breathe. So, you know, you finish a set, it's you. I finish a set, it's him. And at the end of the set, you don't just stop the set. It's like, okay, let's do a drop set. And then you finish, and it's like another drop set. And then there's 4 reps. And then he literally just throws everything at you. And it's hugely fun to train that way. Like, more than anything, it's the fun that you get out of it. Which takes you back to like when you first start training, that sensation of just like pure joy to be in the gym lifting weights. So if you ever get an opportunity to train with Branch or any of those kind of guys, you have to take it, because you'll come away feeling motivated for a long time. I've always said, like, if I could train in Metroflex like every day for a year and have a training partner like a Branch Warren or an Anth Bales, I would be the best I could ever be easily within that year, because you just wouldn't miss a beat. Because the environment, again, like the previous question, the environment there is so giving to what you want to achieve from this. So I'm just going to tell you all now, get on a freaking plane and go to Metroflex and train at least once just to experience it, because you'll come back feeling extremely motivated. And then on top of that, if you ever get a chance to actually train with Branch and at Metroflex, damn, that's bodybuilding complete right there, honestly. So, anything else, guys? Got another one.
When's the best time to work out? Mornings, evenings, midday?
See, I like that, because that's kind of like a question, like I was saying earlier, where it's, some people kind of just they move away from the basics because they think everything's got to be complicated. So I personally think you need at least 1 or 2 meals just in before you train. I think you can get away with 1 for a time if the meal's pretty voluminous and it has enough nutrition in it, especially if you're someone that when you train you have like intra-workout. If you don't, I would recommend 2 meals at least. I wouldn't train too late, and even if you can avoid it, just because it can keep you up at night. But at the same time, being realistic, a lot of people have day jobs. So it's when can you fit it into your schedule without affecting, you know, the quality of your sanity, really. Because you don't want to, nothing should make you feel so pressured or off that it just affects how you feel. So if you work till 5 and you've got to train at 5:30, so be it, that's fine. You would have had probably 4 meals by then, 2 after training, perfect, still good. If you don't work in a traditional standard, if you're kind of remote, I would probably have a meal, go train, get it done, and then have all your meals after and continue work. So it just comes down to your schedule and what you can meet. I wouldn't do like a crazy Jay Cutler, like a 12 night kind of thing they used to do. I don't know how they did it. Like some of the training sessions, if you look at the old mock videos, if any of you have seen them, some of the pros used to go train at like crazy hours just to avoid people. So like Jay would go to like Gold's Gym in wherever it was at like midnight, just so he'd have no one in there. But yeah, but honestly, I think if bodybuilders drove you to that point, something's wrong. Jay is Mr. Olympia though, so I can't really argue with that. But again, it's a very different time. More people train now. So you'd have a hard time doing that anyway, so you might as well train around people. But yeah, just train when it fits you. And again, also don't feel like you're too fixed. You know, if one day your shift is different, like if you're working a different shift, it's okay to train at a different time. As long as you get your total daily food in, which was the goal that I said earlier is really important, then you're fine. What we tend to do these days is that we have a meal that we have before training and a meal that we have after training that always remains the same. So wherever you train in your day, as long as you put those 2 meals around your training and the rest of the day's food rolls as it already does, you've still had a really successful day in bodybuilding. So yeah, that's what I would recommend.
Yeah, so like a follow-up question to that.
Yeah, sure.
So you're saying like you would train, say you would train in the morning, one day you would train midday, next day night, third day, just as an example. So you're saying like the pre-workout meal and the post-workout meal, you would switch them around. So you would train in the morning, you would have your pre-workout meal in the morning, even if it's fucking...
Yeah, literally that's exactly what I do. So, you know, currently like I have like a rice pudding with protein and bananas, pre and post.
Yeah.
So yeah, if I train at like 10 a.m, then I'm having it at like 8 a.m, and I'm having it at like straight after training. Right. And then if I train in the evening, same thing. And then my rest of my meals are just 1, 2, 3, 4. They will just stay in that order.
Yeah.
So that before bed I always have like maybe slightly more fat content in my meals because I tend to do that in the evening. Yeah. And then the morning's more just like chicken and veg and rice. So yeah, you just keep your meals in their consistent order and move the peri-nutrition around. It's weird because we never used to say any of these words back in the day, like peri-nutrition, pre-workout, post-workout, but obviously it's a really big thing now. And it does make sense because you just want to use those foods that are easy to like assimilate and digest well and that are kind of readily available for your energy during training. That's why like the more simple carbohydrates and like easier digesting proteins around training is always a good option to have because it's just going to see you in a good position to train, not feel bloated, not feel lethargic, and still get a good training session in. So that's why I always opt for that. So and then time-wise, like I still think that you should give yourself a good hour at least to allow for digestion, especially if you're going to have a pre-workout drink, because the pre-workouts and stuff like that, they work best when you're kind of empty. So there's nothing always like blocking what they do. And then the same with intra-workout. Obviously you don't want to be drinking an intra on top of a solid meal and letting it compound. Yeah. So you want to be, for the best pumps and the best like kind of training session, you always want to be a little bit empty. And then allow for that intra-workout to basically digest as you're drinking it because you're empty and ready to be, uptake. So, yeah, no worries.
How and when did you guys meet?
So I met Yannicka in 2000 and probably 15, maybe before. Well, I met you before though because we were training in the same gym. So I was actually explaining this yesterday.
It's a podcast.
Yeah, we've got a podcast coming out actually, so it's got the full answer on there. But in short, yeah, we met in the gym. She was training in there, and she always had resting bitch face. Yeah, you know the whole never made eye contact with no one. And I get it, now I get it. She was in there to train. She weren't in to look at any of us men. Okay, I understand. But yeah, we just exchanged small conversations here and there. And one day, I don't know, I actually messaged her on Facebook Messenger because that's how we used to talk back in the day. And we just kind of made good friends on there, and I took her out for a date to Brighton in my car, thinking I was cool. And I think we went to like a tea room. We had some tea and just walked around.
You broke the chair?
I broke the chair. Yeah, so yeah, we literally just met in the gym. Probably quite similar to a lot of people that listen to this. It's like,
I trained in that gym for like 3 years before we started having a conversation.
Yeah, that's how I could. Yeah. That's why I knew she had rested bitch face, because I saw her for 3 years doing it, and I saw no gentleman in there ever managed to even get a word out of her. So yeah, that's how it happened.
Anything else, guys? Okay, so we're just gonna ask James to sign t-shirts.
Yeah, I'm gonna sign some t-shirts. I've got a shit signature, but it's all good. We'll, we got some you got some gasp t-shirts, haven't you?
Yeah.
So you got some of the ones that you're wearing now, I believe.
Yeah.
The white ones. So yeah, friends obviously at Gasp have sorted out some t-shirts with you. Yeah. So that's great. Yeah, we'll do that. Let's sign some t-shirts.
And then if James says it's okay for him, you just grab a picture with James and...
Yeah, and a massive thank you to everybody that's here. This is really great, so I really do appreciate it, and I know he does as well. So
thanks so much, guys.
Let's get a pen and do something.
Gymbros Podcast är en stolt samarbetspartner med Gymgrossisten, som är en av de ledande aktörerna innanför kosttilskudd och träningsprodukter. Med koden Gymbros får du nå 15% rabatt på ordinär pris på hela sortimanget i både Norge och Sverige. Alltså med koden Gymbros får du nå 15% rabatt på både gymgrossisten.no och gymgrossisten.se.